explains about dot manipulations, which is one of the pattern making principle. It starts with an introduction and moves on various demonstration of how to move the dots to different locations, how to convert dot into decorative dots and dot equivalents, how to eliminate dots by seams, how to convert the dot into shearing, how dots can be converted into flanges, and most importantly, how to make style lines patterns, which include classic princess style line, armhole princess style line, and panel style line. You can use your own pattern to do this demonstration. Otherwise, you may download the pattern given in the PDF format. These patterns are given in real scale, so size of the pattern will be bigger for most of the common paper sizes. If you have a plotter which is more than 36-inch printable width, you can easily print these patterns. Another option is to take this multiple places. This will enable you to get the patterns by joining all the parts together. You may reduce size by 50% or 25% of the pattern to work in 1/4 or 1.5 or 1/4 scale. Each technique first starts with design analysis, in which the design features are explained, followed by a small graphics overview of the pattern making process, which give you a brief idea about the process to enable you get a better understanding, followed by the manual demonstration. Other graphics shows how it fits on the body by virtual stitching. The final pattern also given in the PDF format for reference. You may print and verify your pattern along with the final patterns. By end of this unit, students will able to name 3 major pattern making principles, apply the principle while creating the design pattern, name the basic dot locations, use the pivotal transfer technique to transfer dots, use technique to transfer a single dot to other locations, apply the instruction to fold dot axis in the correct direction. Discuss the reason for making the dot points before reaching bust point. Explain the different ways that the shoulder dot can be modified. Create the dot tag, pleat and flare from the single dot. Create gathers using slash and spread and pivotal transfer method. Create graduated, radiating and asymmetric, intersecting and parallel dot by dividing a single dot axis into multiples. Explain why dot axis remain in design where the style line do not cross bust point. Describe the princess, armhole princess and panel style lines. Now we are going to see how to transfer the dot by using slash and spread method. For this, I am using single waist dot sloper. I am going to transfer this dot to as a French dot. First, decide your plot line. I am marking 2 inches from the bottom. Then connect that point to bust point. Slash the pattern. Cut from the edge side seam to the bust point. Stop 1/8 before so that you can spread the pattern. Mark A, B, C. Now pivot at the bust point and move A to B. a dot will open at C as a French dot. Then trace the pattern. Mark the bust point. Then remove the working pattern. Connect the center front line. Join the dot to bust point. This will make a dot leg. Here give extra space for the dot axis. Mark the midpoint of the dot. Cup the pattern by folding the dot. If it is a horizontal dot, crease the lower dot leg. The dot axis should be towards down. Join the line. Then draw the grain line and complete the pattern by writing all the labels. This method is called slash and spread method, since we are slashing this plot line and spreading the pattern to get the dots. We have another method called pivotal transfer method, which you will learn in next topic. Now you learn how to make French dot on slash method. Now I am going to show you how to transfer waist dot into a French dot by using pivotal transfer method. For this I am using single waist dot sloper. First you draw a plot line where you record a dot. So from the side seam I am marking 2 inches. Then draw a line from there to bust point. Mark dot legs A and B and French dot position to C. In this method we are going to rotate the bodies based on the pivotal point. Pivotal point is the dot end point, the highest point. Since I want to transfer this dot to here, this portion going to move. So don't trace this position. You can start from B and trace the pattern till C in anti-clockwise. Draw till C only. Now pivot at the bust point and move A to B. So it will rotate the pattern, move till it touches the dot point, another leg. Then you trace A to C in the clockwise direction. Mark C. Now remove the pattern, connect dot point to bust point. Now we transfer waist dot to French dot by using pivotal transfer method. You can compare this pattern with slash and spread method. You can see the dots coming in the same position. Both slash and spread and pivotal transfer method will give the same result, only the methodology is different. For beginners, I am suggesting you can use slash and spread method, which is straightforward. Once you experience, then you can use pivotal method, which is faster and time saving process. First, decide the dot position in the underarm level and draw a slash line from point C to apex point. Label C. Slash the line from C to apex point. Close the shoulder dot by moving point A to B. This will close the shoulder dot and open the underarm dot. Reduce the waist dot by half an inch away from apex point. Reduce the underarm dot half an inch away from apex point. The shoulder dot transfer to underarm dot. Now we are going to see how to make underarm and waist dot. To make this, use sloper of shoulder and waistline dot. First, mark A and B in the shoulder dot. Mark the underarm position from the side seam where the dot is required and mark C. Now I am marking 1.5 inch from the side seam and I am marking C. Now draw a line from C to bust point. Now slash a line from C to bust point. Slash A to bust point. Now close A to B so that you can close the shoulder dot and the dot open at C. Move A to B, pivoting at bust point, join together. Now dot will open at C. Pin it. Now trace the front body sloper. Wherever there is a straight line like center front line, shoulder line, side seam after closing the dot, you mark only the corner points. Mark all the corners in L shape, and the straight line you need not to mark, but the curve lines you have to mark. Draw the neckline, Draw the armhole, draw the waistline, then make the L mark for the underarm dart. Mark the bust point. Now if you make the dart till bust point, it will be two pointed. To make it smooth effect at the bust point, you have to reduce half an inch both waist dart and underarm dart. Once you confirm you have marked all the marks, remove the working pattern. Connect center front line with the straight line. Connect shoulder line using a straight ruler. Mark the midpoint of dart. Connect the midpoint to bust point. Connect the midpoint of the waist dart to bust point. Now we have to reduce half an inch. Mark half an inch from the bust point on both waist dart and underarm dart. Draw the dart legs. Since we have a dot at the waist and underarm, we have to true these shapes. For that, while cutting, you just leave 1 inch extra. Balance these lines you can cut exactly. Then we have to fold the dart, then cut. While closing the dart, if it is a horizontal dart, First fold the bottom line, fold this line, crease this line. The excess of dot should be towards down. Creasing this line and crease the center line. If it is a vertical dot, crease the dot leg which is nearer to the center, either it can be center front or center back. Crease the line, make the curve, then cut the line. Fold the dot, then draw the straight line. Now we made underarm and waistline dot pattern. Label A and B at shoulder dot legs. Draw a slash line from armhole to apex point. Label C at armhole, slash C to apex point. Close the shoulder dot by moving point A to B. Dot will open at point C. Reduce the waist dot half an inch away from apex point. Reduce the armhole dot half an inch away from apex point. Now we transfer shoulder dot into armhole dot. Now we are going to make armhole and waist dot. To make this, use shoulder and waist dot sloper. First mark A and B at the shoulder dot, then decide where you want the dot at the armhole. You can mark mid armhole or anywhere you want. Now I am marking here where you want the armhole dot, then mark C. Now connect C to bust point. Draw a line. slash the line, slash A2 bus point, now pivot at the bus point and close A to B. By closing A to B, the dot will open at C. Pin it. Now we have to trace this pattern, trace all the corners. Trace the dots, trace the bus line, mark the bus point, draw the neckline, draw the waistline, draw the armhole, since the side seam, shoulder and center front line are straight line, you need not to mark it now. Confirm you have marked all the necessary marking, then remove the working pattern. Join the shoulder line, join the center front line, join the side seam, mark the bus point, draw the bus line, mark the dot midpoint, for get a smooth effect, mark half an inch inside from the bus point for both armhole dot and waist dot. Draw the dot legs, then cut all the line except where the dot is there. If you have a dot, allow 1 inch extra. We have to true and cut. So I am cutting the center line. Shoulder line. Side seam. Neckline. Then leave around 1 inch extra for armhole and waist. Now we have to close the dart, close the bottom line, crease the bottom line and fold on the center line, crease the line which is near to center and fold on the center. Cut the pattern. Close the pattern. The armhole should have a smooth shape, otherwise you can use French curve to make it smooth. The dot excess should be down. Now we made the pattern with armhole dot and waist dot. Then mark necessary marking, bust point, center front and put notches, punch in circle to complete the pattern. Now we are going to make neckline and waist dot. For this, use shoulder dot and waist dot sloper. To shift the shoulder dot to neckline in the front basic body sloper, first draw a straight line from bust point to mid of the neckline. You can draw anywhere in the neckline, but I am marking mid of the neckline. Then mark C. Mark A and B in the shoulder line. Now slash the line C2 bus point. Then slash B2 bus point. Then move B to A by pivoting bus point. And pin it. Now dot will open at C. Now trace the pattern. Mark all the corner points. Mark the dot legs. Mark the bus line. Mark the bus point. Make sure you have marked all the points. Draw the neckline shape. Draw the armhole shape. Draw the waist shape. Once you mark all the points, remove the working pattern. Join the shoulder line. Join the side seam. Join the center front line. Mark the bust point. Draw the bust level. Draw a line from bust point to mid of the waist dot. Mark midpoint in the neckline dot. Draw a line from this midpoint to bust point. You have to reduce half an inch on the neckline dot and waist dot. Mark half an inch away from the bust point. Mark half an inch away from the bust point. Redraw the dot legs. Now cut the lines. Cut the shoulder line. Cut the side seam. Cut the armhole. We have a dot at the neckline and waist, so leave half an inch to 1 inch extra for the truing purpose. Closing the dot, crease the dot leg which is nearer to the front, both armhole waist neckline dot and armhole dot. Cup the pattern, fold on the center line, open. Should have a smooth curve, otherwise you can true by using the French curve. Use the French curve for the truing the neck shape, make it as a smooth shape. Then close the dot. And cut. Crease the center line. Crease the dot leg. And true the waistline dot. Now the dot transitioning has been over. Now we have a dot at the waist and mid of neckline. Now you have to complete the pattern. For that you have to mark notches, center front lines, grind lines, other things. From this we are converting shoulder dot to mid armhole dot, mid neckline dot. Connecting shoulder dot to center front dot. Label A and B at shoulder dot legs. Mark the dot point at center front and label C. Slash C to apex point. Pivot at apex point and move the point B to A. This will close the shoulder dot and create center front dot at C. Reduce the waist dot half an inch from apex point. Reduce the center front dot half an inch from apex point. Now shoulder dot transfer to center front dot. Now we are making center front and waist dot. For this use shoulder and waist dot sloper. Mark A and B in the shoulder dot of the basic body sloper. Desire where you want the slash line, where you want the dot at the center front, and mark C. You can decide anywhere. I am marking here. Draw a line from bust point to C. Slash the line joining the point B. As well as slash the line from bust point to C. Pivot at bust point and move the B to A. And pin it. The spread at the point C while closing B to A. Now trace the bodies. Mark the corner points. Draw the armhole shape. Draw the neckline. Draw the waist seam. Then mark the dot legs and dot center. Mark the bust point. Make sure you have marked all the points, then remove the working pattern. Mark the midpoint of the dot. Draw the center line. Both center front dot and waist dot. Mark half an inch down from the bust point. Mark half an inch away from the bust point. Connect the dot legs. Draw the shoulder line. Draw the side seam. Since we have a dot at the center front and waist, don't cut it exactly, leave 1 inch extra. Cut the shoulder line. Cut the side seam. Cut the armhole. Cut the neckline. Leave extra for the truing of the dot for both center front and waist level. Crease bottom of the dot leg. Crease the dot leg which is nearer to the center. Crease center line. Cut the pattern. And true if required. Make a smooth line. Cut the waistline. Fold the center line. Fold the bottom of the dot. Make a straight line. Then cut the center front line by closing the dot. Now the solder dot has been converted to the center front dot. Mark center front and draw the grind line parallel to the center front. And complete the pattern by giving the notches, punch and circle and other label informations. Now you learn how to convert solder dot to center front dot. By this we are converting solder dot to center front dot. We are going to make French dot. French dot is a dot which comes on the side seam in an angle towards bus point. It can come anywhere in the side seam and mostly it will come 1/3 below the side seam. The advantage of the dot is it will go on the side seam while wearing. It may not visible in the front view. It is most popular and you can see in many garments. Now to make the French dot, use waist dot sloper. Only one dot is there. Mark A and B of the waist dot legs and decide your French dot position. I am marking 3.5 inches from the waist level and mark C. Connect C to bus point. Then slash the line. Now move the point to B so that the waist dot will be closed, the dot will open at side seam. Pivot at the bust point and close A to B. Then secure the pattern with pins. Trace the pattern. Mark all corner points. Mark waist seam. hole, mark neckline, mark the dot legs, mark the bust point. Once you complete all the marking, remove the working pattern. Connect shoulder line, connect center front line, since we have a dot here, don't draw the line now, you have to draw the dot. First mark the midpoint of the French dot, connect midpoint of the dot to the bust point, mark half an inch inside, draw the dot legs, then cut the pattern. You can use scissors also. Cut the waistline. Give 1 inch extra. For the French dot. Take the pattern out. Since it's a horizontal dot, crease the bottom of dot leg. Crease the center of the dot line. Cup the pattern. Then connect as a straight line. And through the side seam. By this, we are converting waist dot to bust dot. Now you have learned how to convert waist dot to French dot. Now we are going to make neckline dot. For this, use single waist dot sloper and mark A and B at the waist dot legs. Decide where you want the neckline dot. Here you can mark anywhere. I am marking 1 inch from the center front neckline. Then mark C. Now draw a straight line from C to bust point. Slash the line. Now by closing A to B, we are going to open C, thus make neckline dot. Pivot at the bust point. Then close A to B. So that C will open and make neckline dot. Pin it securely. Draw all the corners. Draw the armhole. Draw the neckline. Draw the waist seam. Mark the bust point. Once you mark all the points, remove the working pattern. Join the center seam. Join the shoulder. Join the side seam. Mark the midpoint of the dot. Connect to the bust point. Mark half an inch above the bust point. Connect the dot legs. Now we are going to cut the pattern. Cut the center front line. Cut the side seam. Cut the shoulder. Cut the waistline seam. Cut the armhole. We have to true the dot, so give additional space here. Crease the dot which is nearer to the center front. Crease the center of the dot. Cup the pattern. And make sure you should have a smooth neck curve. Then cut the neckline. So now you learn how to convert waistline dot to neckline dot. Now you are going to learn how to make diagonal center front dot. For this you can use single waist dot sloper and mark A and B at the waistline dots. Decide where you want the center front dot and mark C. I want diagonally from bottom, so I am marking 4 inches from the waistline and I am marking C. Draw a slash line from C to bust point. Slash C to bust point. Now you have to move B to A so that the waist dot will be closed and the dot will open at C. pivot at the bust point and move B to A. It will make dot open at C. Secure the pattern with push pins and trace the pattern. Mark all corners. Mark the dot legs. Mark the bust point. Draw the neckline. Draw the armhole line. Draw the waistline. Once you completed all the marking, you can remove the working pattern. Draw the shoulder line. Draw the side seam. Mark the bust point. Mark the midpoint of the dot. Connect to the bust point. Mark half an inch away from the bust point. Then connect the dot legs. Now we can cut the pattern. Cut neckline, shoulder, armhole, side seam and waistline except center front line. Since we have a dot, we have to true it. Leave additional space. For the truing. Since it is a horizontal dot, you have to crease the lower dot leg. Then crease dot center line. mark up the pattern. Then draw a straight line. Draw a straight line from center front neck to center front waist. Then cut the pattern. Now you learn how to make a center front diagonal dot from waistline dot. Now we are going to make horizontal center front dot. That will come exactly on the bust line. First mark the bust line. From bust point to center front. Make a horizontal line from bust point to center front. Then slash the line. Mark C here. Now pivot at the bust point and move B to A. By doing this, it will close the dot at the waist and open the dot at the center front. Pin it to secure. Now we have to trace the pattern. Draw the corners. Then mark the dot ends. Mark the bust point. Draw the neckline curve. Draw the armhole curve. Draw the waistline. Once you completed the marking, you can remove the working pattern. Join the shoulder seam. Join the side seam. Now you can cut the pattern. cut the armhole. Cut the waistline, make sure it is smooth, otherwise you can use the French curve to make it smooth. We have to true the dot, so leave extra space. Cut the center front. Mark midpoint of the dot. Mark the bust point. Connect bust point to midpoint of the dot. Mark half an inch away from the bust point. Draw the dot legs. Since it is a horizontal dot, crease the lower dot leg, crease the center of the dot. Cup the pattern. And make a straight line. Draw a straight line from center front neck to center front waistline. Cut the pattern. You can mark the grain line parallel to the center front. You can mark either like this or like this, which will give the different design. The grain line will change. Then complete your patterns. Now you learn how to convert waistline dot to horizontal center front dot.